Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Brass Monkey F's. So, it's about that time of year where my anniversary is coming up, and every year, me and my wife, we like to do the traditional anniversary gifts, and we are on year 7 this year. So, this year's gift is copper. So, as you guys know, I like to hand make all of my gifts for my anniversaries. If you go back last year, you could see a video I made. I made a wooden keepsake box that also plays music. It's on my playlist. You guys can find it. But that was my wooden anniversary gift, and this year the gift is copper. So I am not much of a metal worker at all, but I had a few ideas, and I certainly wasn't going to buy anything. I definitely have to hand make something here. So my idea this year was, my wife loves candles, so I figured, why not make one of those old-timey looking candle holders? Not like a candlestick, but like one of the ones that holds like a tea candle or like a small candle, like they used to use. Like, you'd see them depicted back in like the Revolutionary War days, like with George Washington sitting on his desk holding the candle thing. So I came up with like a template, and it looks something like this. I know that it's very crude here. I just took a piece of cardboard, right, little piece of cardboard stock, and I folded up the edges as like a drip catch for the candle wax. I figure the candle will sit right in here like this, right? And then I'm also going to need some kind of like a handle on it. So I cut out like a little piece to make like a little handle where you would like hold it, walk with it or whatever, like they did back in the day, right? So that was my idea, to make this out of copper. So what I did was, I actually had some copper laying around. I know, odd thing to say. Who has copper laying around? But I started with a square of copper. Okay? Something like this. It was 4 inches by 4 inches. Made a circle out of it. Used a compass. Drew a circle. Okay? Made sure it was big enough. Used it about the same size as this one. Right? I cut it out with a pair of, all I had was these. I don't even have like real snips. I have these old like aluminum shears that I used to use when I was doing construction. So I used a pair of these to cut it out, which it worked fine. This isn't the thickest stuff. It's not like a real thick gauge. If you look at it here, it's kind of thin, but it's still sturdy. So anyway, I cut out the circle, right? And then I got myself a nice small ball peen hammer here. One of my favorite hammers in my collection, by the way. Love this thing. It's old as dirt, and it's one of the most functional hammers I have. But I went and got this, and then in my wood pile on the side of my house, I had a couple. I found some of these on my property, like these old wooden fence posts, right? And it's got a nice curve to it here. And I got lucky because on the top here, where I'd cut this thing, it was actually one of these areas here. So it's got this little groove in it. So this is perfect for like shaping the metal, I figured. So I brought my round piece of metal out, my piece of copper, right? Held my wood here, got the old ball peen hammer, and I just started going to town on it. Like, I just started hammering the shit out of it. Right? You just keep hammering it until you start to get the shape that you want. So just keep hammering away. It gives it this nice hammered copper look, which I think came out awesome. All right. So, like I said, you kind of bang up the edges here to give you that little drip cap. And then if it starts getting a little out of shape, like it starts getting a little wonky, you can see there it's not quite flat. You just flip it over the other way. All right. And you just hammer it down again on this side. You can turn your piece of wood around to get better angles here. Like if you want to hammer down the edges. All right. Do a little bit of that action. whatever you got to do. You just keep hammering it and keep shaping it until you get the right shape that you want. Now once I get this all shaped out and I have the dish shape made, I cut out this strip of copper here. I'm going to use this and my little template here for the handle. Right? I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut that, I'm going to hammer out a handle, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use solder, and I'm just going to solder the handle on there, and then we're going to call it a day. It's going to be all done. So but yeah guys, hopefully this works out. I've never done metal work like this before. It's actually kind of cool. I'm kind of enjoying doing this. I never thought I would. I'm more of a woodworker. I don't really work with metal. I mean, I've done like aluminum work for like casing windows and stuff back when I did construction, but I never really did like real like metalworking or like blacksmithing or anything like that. So there's a whole new world for me, but it's actually kind of fun. I'm having a blast doing this, and I mean, I'm building something with my own two hands. I love doing that kind of stuff. But hang in there, guys. I'm gonna keep working on this, and I'm gonna have to cut the video here, but I'm gonna come back and I'll show you when I get the handle done, and then we'll solder it all together. All right, guys, so check it out. I got the dish roughly the shape that I want. I mean, it's pretty flat on the bottom where I want it to be. The sides are curled up nice for that drip edge to catch all the wax. The hammered look came out pretty awesome. I like the way that came out. That's pretty cool. So the next step was I hammered out that strip to make the handle with. So I got that all hammered out, and then all I have to do now is kind of hold it where I want it on here. I can't do this with one hand, sorry guys. I got to hold it here where I want it and then just kind of bend it and shape it into the shape that I want for the handle, and then I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and solder it up. So hang tight guys, we'll get this wrapped up. Alright, so I got the handle in the basic shape that I was looking for. It's big enough where you can fit one finger. If you got small hands, you could probably fit two in there. Looks alright. It's not the best. It's kind of crude looking, but I mean, like I said, it's my first attempt at any kind of real metal work. So there you go. I left a lot of material on the bottom there so I can solder the hell out of that and it'll be nice and strong. But yeah, that's what it's going to look like once we get it all soldered up. So, alright, let me go guys. I'm going to go grab my solder and all that, and we'll get it soldered up and I'll show you what it looks like when we're all finished. Alright guys, so I decided milk was a bad choice. Okay, there's no way I'm going to go ahead and solder this thing on here. That's just way too much meat to try and solder. I'm not doing that. That's just ridiculous. So I decided a better way to attach the handle to this thing would be to rivet it. So I went in my garage and I was looking for my rivet gun, and I realized I misplaced it. I don't know what the hell I did with it. I mean, I haven't seen that thing in almost 20 years now, since I haven't done construction in that long. So I said, all right, I might as well just go buy a new one. So I went to Harbor Freight, picked up a new rivet gun. I bought it, this brand here, Quinn. It was like 18 bucks at Harbor Freight. Pretty good brand. I have other tools by Quinn. It's not that bad. If you're buying hand tools from Harbor Freight, you're in good shape, guys. Some of their power tools I'd stay away from, but their hand tools at Harbor Freight are great. Home Depot sells this same exact rivet gun. It's red instead of blue, but it's the same thing. Same handle, same little heads on it with the same color coding on it. It's literally the same thing. Even has the same nameplate on here, but instead of Quinn, it says Arrow on it. And they sell it for literally twice as much money as this one. So for hand tools and stuff, guys, always go to Harbor Freight. Don't waste your money. So I picked that up. I figured I'd rivet this thing together instead of soldering it. Now, if I'm going to do that, I'm not going to leave the handle so long here on the bottom, because I'm going to end up having to put like 1, 2, maybe 3 rivets in this thing. And I don't want to have a bunch of rivets all the way down this thing. So I'm going to do some reshaping of this handle. I think it's kind of crude anyway. So I'm going to have it kind of wrap around itself and then just have one rivet coming through into the edge here and kind of rivet it all together there. So hopefully that works out. I don't know. I got to go do some reshaping and figure this out. So I'm going to go take care of that. Once I got the new shape figured out, I'll come back and I'll show you guys how I rivet this thing. All right, guys, things are really starting to come together here now. So I figured out the shape of my handle. I got this here. Okay, I have it kind of wrap around in on itself now to give it a little more rigidity. And I left the loop big enough where you can get 2 fingers in here. Well, I can, but I got dainty little hands. There's enough room on top so you can get your thumb on there. And if you want to put 1 finger in here, you can get a finger underneath. Even if you got 2 in there, you still got room to get a finger underneath here. So you get a nice grip on there. And like I said, with it wrapping in around itself, I think it's going to make it a little more rigid. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it over here and figure out where exactly I want it on here. I mean, right about there looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark it with my center punch. I'm just going to come in here. I don't want to be too close to the edge of this plate. So I'm getting in as far as I can, but still catching enough meat on this copper here. And I'm just going to mark it with the center punch. And then I'm just going to drill this out. So I'm going to drill it out so I can get the rivet in there. Now the rivets, I wanted to use this cool looking black one, this aluminum one, but it's a little too small. I figured I'd switch it up and I'd use this one here, this copper one. So that way the whole thing is made of copper. I'm not using the aluminum, even though the aluminum would look really cool. The copper is a little bit thicker, the head of that. Sorry, I can't get it to focus. But yeah, this one's definitely a little bit thicker. It's a little more substantial than the black one there. So it should hold it a little better. So I'm going to go with the copper instead of the black. But the black does look really cool. So when you do this, guys, you want to pick a drill bit that's slightly larger than the shaft of the rivet itself. That way your rivet can fit through the hole. But you don't want to go too big where your drill bit is bigger than the head of the rivet. Okay, so just be aware of that when you're choosing a drill bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to clamp it. And then I'm going to bring it over to my vise right over here. And I got this spare piece of wood in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it on here when I drill it. That way I'm drilling into the spare piece of wood. You don't want to just hold on to it like this and just try and drill through. It's not going to work. This thing's going to be wiggling around all over the place. So my advice, get a clamp it together, put it on a spare block of wood like this, and drill into the block of the wood because you don't want this wiggling around all over the place. Now once you have your handle drilled out, you come back over to your plate, put it back on here exactly where you want it, okay? And then you can use a pen or something or a marker and mark through the hole you have in your handle onto your plate so you know where to drill the plate. And again, you can use a center punch if you need to and just mark it, or you can, just go ahead and freehand it. Come back over to your spare block of wood. You want to put this on the block of wood just like you did with this and drill through into the block of wood. So after I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and get it riveted up. And then I thought about one more thing. I don't know what I'm going to do here. Usually on a candlestick, you'll see right here in the middle, there's some sort of spike sticking up that holds the candle. Because when you put the candle on here, it's just going to it's going to wiggle all over the place. Okay. So I got to figure out a way to put some kind of spike in the middle here. But we'll get that figured out after we get this thing riveted up. So let me go take care of that. I was thinking about setting up my camera and showing you guys, but there's a couple videos that I made before where like I show myself doing some of my work and people are like, oh, your video's too long. It's unnecessary. I don't need to see how you screw something. So I'm going to skip all that. I'm just going to go and get it done. And then I'll come back and show you guys once I got it all riveted up. Okay, guys, so I got it riveted up. Here it is. All done. I just want to get it polished up now. I'm going to show you guys a little trick I use to polish up copper. I don't know if it works on other metals. I'm sure it does, but when we were kids, we used to do this all the time, me and my brothers. What we would do is we would take like old green dingy looking pennies and we put them in a packet of Taco Bell sauce. You drop it in there, you dump it out a few minutes later, and it comes out perfectly shiny. So as you can see, this side, it's nice and shined up. I already went ahead and did this side. See how this side, it's already getting a little corroded just from me working on this for a week. All right, so it's got a little bit of, it's got some spotting on here. You can see it's starting to change. It's not that shiny rose color anymore. And if you flip it over, look at this side that I did already. It's got that really nice color. It's because I shined it up with this. So just use some Taco Bell sauce, dump it on there. It's the acidity in the sauce that does it. If you don't have this, you could use ketchup too. But we always found that using the Taco Bell sauce works the best. So let me go get this polished up. Alright guys, so we're all shined up. I used the Taco Bell sauce on it. As you can see, you can still see where it was starting to get tarnished. Like it had that little bit of rust on it. But it turned it from green to that weird brown color. But it's all shiny now. It's nice and clean. It's that nice rose copper color. Came out real good. I'm happy with it. Like I said, I've never done any kind of metalworking before. And I'm pretty sure I nailed that hammered copper look. That's exactly what I was looking for. I know my wife's going to love it. I mean, it serves its purpose. It does what it's supposed to do. It holds the candles, you know. I mean, whether you're using something like this or like one of those little tea lights. That's why I decided not to put the little spike in the middle. Because candles like this, they have that little metal plate from where the wick is anyway. So it's not really going to stick to it. And then like if you use like a tea light, the tea lights have, they usually have like a little metal base anyway. So I'm foregoing the metal spike. Maybe in the future, if she wants it on there, I'll find like a copper nail or something and just nail it through the bottom. And I don't know, we'll see. But I'm not going to do the spike. I think it came out pretty good for a guy who's never done any metal work before. If any of you guys out there do stuff like this, let me know what I did wrong, what I did right. You know, what do you guys think? Let me know. Post it in the comments below. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you next time.